We are Group 8, and we'll talk about the hidden profile issue in collective decision making. Our group consists of Katerīna, Abimbola, and myself, Cameron. We will start our video with an example of the hidden profile issue or undershared and undervalued information in a group decision-making setting. We will look in at a football team deciding who will be the next captain. They have two possible candidates, Jenny or Tim. There are 6 other players on the team, and they will need to share what they know about these candidates and then vote. Let's listen in to what they say and what they are thinking.
John. I vote for Tim. However, John thinks something else. Tim is my friend. I think he would be the best.
Beth says, I also vote for Tim. Beth talks to herself. I know Tim was a terrible captain of another sports team, but maybe this time will be different.
Ness. I vote Jenny because Tim does not come to enough practices. Ness says to himself, no one else knows this, but Tim likes to skip practice and lies about why. Bob. I vote for Tim. Bob speaks to himself. Ness doesn't like Tim. I really like Tim. That's not even important.
Sarah. I vote for Tim too. Sarah keeps to herself some information. What did Ness say? Bob did not even talk about it. It isn't important. Everyone seems to like Tim. I will vote for him too.
Greg says aloud, I vote for Tim. Looks like he is the captain. Greg speaks to himself. I think I remember something our old coach told Ness and I about Tim and practices, but no one else seems to care. He is really popular and a vote for Jenny won't matter.
You can see what was shared and what was said were very different than what was thought. Seems like they chose the wrong captain. But they weren't sharing everything they knew, and they weren't discussing it enough. This is the hidden profile phenomenon. Let's take a closer look at what happened.
So, let's discuss why do we delegate decision-making to the groups. So first things what will come up is that the group decision will represent the values of its all stakeholders. In our case, the soccer team members. The second thing is for discussing they are able to obtain more informed decision. Number 3, because the election of the soccer team captain is a quite complex and risky decision, so they are able to diffuse responsibility. And fourth thing, for discussing they're able to identify the commonalities, the things they prefer. So at the end of the day, the decision making in the group is actually meant to reach the better decision.
So let's discuss John. He's already made up his mind. He made up his mind before the conversation even started. This is called the pre-existing bias, and it occurred in the study. Each of individuals in the collective decision-making process were given some information about candidates beforehand. And due to that information beforehand, someone had already made up their mind about their decision. Before the conversation had even happened, even after being instructed that they were supposed to have a conversation with other people with other shared information and then reach a decision. So it's very possible in these situations that people, it doesn't matter what happens in the discussion, a pre-existing bias has already occurred, and that's just going to skew the result.
It's often said that 2 heads are better than 1. When 2 or more people come together to take a decision, we'll always have a better, it is expected that we always have a better result. However, this can only happen when information is equally distributed amongst this group. Now, we must have seen a video showing a number of people who had to take a decision on who was the most suitable candidate for a football captain.
However, we have Bob here, and now Bob has made up his mind, kind of a pre-existing bias as well. But what is occurring now is an undervaluing or a devaluing of someone else's opinion or their information because it goes against the pre-existing bias or their beliefs or their opinions. So even though a good point is brought up or important information is shared, people can devalue it, say it's not important, say it's not a reason to change their minds. And this occurred in the discussions as well. So it's something to keep in mind when you're having these conversations, that not only do you need to bring up good points, you also need to bring them up in a way or repeatedly enough so that someone can't just dismiss them to the side, as like we saw in this conversation.
Now we saw that in that group, a number of people were privileged to some information which was not commonly shared amongst them in the group. This is often referred to as hidden profile. And at the end of the day, those information that they had that was not shared will have helped them to take a better decision. It is often said that unshared information, if not shared commonly amongst the group members, are much more important than common information. Also, we also saw that in taking a decision, in picking the right football captain, information unshared is sometimes could be much more important than commonly shared information. When a bit of information is kept aside to just one or two people, members of a group, we often see that it affects their decision. It makes their decision to be by heart.
So Greg, Sarah, and Beth, three of them decided to withhold information to themselves and do not share negative things about Tim. Neither did share anything negative or positive about Jenny. This is a kind of strange, but our brain or ourselves, we tend to recall only the information which supports the existing discussion, in our case, Tim. The discussion failed to reach its own purpose, to correct the initial consensus. Let's have a closer look. Our group members discussing. They are performing the judgmental task by choosing an alternative which will gain the most support from the majority of the group members. So this candidate most likely is gonna win. The rule majority wins accounts actually for the most of the group decisions, and discussions rarely erodes the initial consensus. The information which is unshared in our case would have provided an ample opportunity for discussion to counter the initial preferences, but unfortunately, the group members fail to share information, so the reached decision most likely is not of the better quality. And group decision fail of informational bias.
Hello. So a quick summary at the end, and then some tips about how to avoid the hidden profile phenomenon. So it is basically the fact that a group of people can have perfect information or the best information they can get to choose the best choice in a decision, yet because of biases, issues, and just the human mind, they do not share their information, they devalue other people's information, they hide information, or they forget information, and because of that they make a suboptimal or not the best decision possible. Some quick tips that you can use in a group decision-making setting is write everything out. Have everyone write everything they know and do that before the meeting and then share that instead of just verbally sharing stuff. Another thing which was shown that if you have more than one option, it encourages more discussion and it stops being as polarizing. That's important. Another one that you can have is make sure that everyone has to speak and weigh in so people can't hide information they know. And finally, try and avoid personalizing the issue. As soon as emotions get involved, humans become a lot less logical. Okay, great. Have a wonderful day. Bye.